Hello and welcome to the Pedro and Hannibal podcast. My name is Hannibal. I'm with Pedro with a really nice hoodie. I was going to tell
Yes,
you later,
hoodie
earlier,
weather,
like,
baby. It's hoodie
yeah,
weather.
it is
Yeah,
hoodie weather. This is my favorite time of the year when it gets a little cool, but that's not freezing. So yeah, I love the hoodie
me too,
weather,
man.
but
Me
it's
too.
going to be a little hot tonight, so I didn't want to put on the hoodie, but you got the hoodie on, so it's all good. It's going to be a very interesting and important episode ahead of us. Talking about something a little bit more real. Everything is real, but a little bit more a deeper situation that's happening in our society. So before we jump in, I want to say hi to everyone that's already checking us out. See Ghost Cab, Matthew Green. I'm enjoying all the regulars who are coming through.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesdays is the day that we kind of, the day of the week that we started. We obviously we added the extra show, but it's good to kind of get back into it's Wednesday, 10 p.m. We ready. And before we jump in, I want to do one relationship type story first. I don't think I even told you about this.
I'm ready, man. I love it. I love when you drop like random shit
Here's
on
a
me.
random
I
thing.
love it. I
It's
love it. I
not.
love it.
It's not. It'll never top the random thing I showed you a couple episodes ago with
That
that
the
French
beads,
police. Officer.
the
Yeah,
beat, yeah. Or oh no, you talking about the woman with the Let's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Let's not.
I'm still trying to get that French police woman that apprehended that evil dentist to come on the show, but I don't know French. I don't think she knows English.
Well, that doesn't
So
matter. Well, that's better actually. That's better.
it's just her talking, even though she could be cursing us out while we're in it, you're just
Random,
like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Works for me.
Okay. This is a kind of an age old question in terms of dating, especially the first date. Should you, and I guess I'm talking about, us, me and you, men, right? Do you pay for the entire date? Do you go Dutch, go half and half?
Oh. Mm.
How does that work? So I saw
Mm.
something on TikTok. Well, actually, to be honest, I don't go on TikTok. I go on Facebook and YouTube that shows me TikTok videos. I don't think I have. I think I have TikTok on my phone, but I don't really check it out. But it's like I'm already getting TikTok. It's on everything else.
Right.
So this particular woman went on a date and she's going to tell us her experience, and I'll tell you exactly what a lot of the comments that were related to that video were all about. So let me put this in real quick.
Men are so funny, I swear to God. So I went on a date with this guy, and when the check came, he asked me to split the check with him. To which I responded, yeah, sure, of course. And he was like, you don't mind? And I was like, no, of course not. Like, why would I mind? Like, I don't care. So we split the check, which was fine. And then we had a great rest of the evening, and then he dropped me off at home. But tell me what, the next day, he was like, why are you being distant? Why are you ghosting me? Like, why are you not texting me back? Sir. Like, what? Baby, I don't know how to tell you this. I'm not gonna be the one to tell you it, but someone needs to tell this man.
Just to recap what she was saying, she went on a date. The bill came. He asked her, do you mind? Or he's like, you mind splitting the bill? Is it okay? She says, sure, no problem. They have a good night. She drops her home and she ghosts him. Doesn't respond to his message. And I guess someone else should have told him that he should have never ever said, let's split the date. Like, don't split. He should have spent all that. He should have paid for everything. What's your thoughts, Pedro, on at least that video and her response to it?
Ooh, man, listen, y'all know I lay it on the line. I don't care. Listen, I'm a little old school. I think her response was appropriate. I think she appropriately didn't make an awkward situation. She paid half, and she's like, "That's not my kind of guy, I guess," and that's cool. I got no problem with her response. I understand dating has changed a lot since I've been in the dating game. I think that's fine. I think I've even heard a lot of people say it depends on who asked the person out. So let's say she asked him out. She wants to take him out. Maybe she pays. I think, man, that could be cool, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time, in most situations, I think the men are probably asking and pursuing a woman most of the time. And even if it's two women, if the woman asks one woman out, the woman that asks the woman out is going to probably pay. If it's a guy asking a guy out, right? So, but for me, I'm paying. especially on the first date. I think it's I think that's just a respectful thing to do. I think if I'm asking a woman out or she's spending time with me, I feel great about that. I'm humbled, like I'm cool with that. Let me take you out. Let me treat you for a meal, whatever the date is. Um, I pay. That's how I look at it. I know the world's changing. Maybe it's my pride. Maybe it's, I don't know. But I don't mind her response at all. Actually, I don't. So yeah.
Well, okay. The fact that she had a good time with the individual, and then she said, "I had a good time," but that was the red flag. That was the deal breaker. Is that a deal breaker if someone decides to split the date on the first date?
I mean, I don't know. Obviously, she didn't have a good enough time, but I guess she did. I don't.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
tough.
Yeah,
It's
like
tough. Yeah, I don't know.
if she had a good time, and that was the biggest problem. So the comments kind of went all over the place. Obviously, most of the people are like, "Well, yeah, he learned a lesson, but basically, if you didn't pay, you're basically our friends right now." But you wouldn't ghost your friends,
Yeah,
so no, they're not friends. It's she
yeah,
had one experience. He did that one thing that she did not like, and then that's it. I'm not even going to talk to you anymore. So then a lot of the red pill kind of guys are sitting there like, he dodged a bullet. She only wanted money.
yeah. I don't. I mean, maybe, but if she only wanted money, she probably would have made it a big deal. She obviously paid half, so whatever, right?
Right.
I look at
But
it
like you said,
like
she
if
probably didn't want to make it awkward. So she probably in the
maybe,
back of her
yeah,
mind didn't like it, but it was like, well, I'm here.
right,
Let's,
right.
that's
And
one thing
some
women
woman
do
will
not
turn
like.
up
They do
and be
not
all
like awkward
crazy.
moments.
Some woman will be all crazy about it and cause a scene. She didn't do that, right? At
Yeah.
least we don't think she did. But I almost look at it also like if I'm a dude and I'm out with a chick and the vibe ain't there, and I know I'm never gonna see her again, let's go Dutch because I'm not wasting my mind. You see what I'm saying? But he was pursuing her and then asking why you ghosted me. So clearly he liked the girl. So as a man, in my opinion, I might get
Right.
some hate for this. If I'm trying to pursue a chick, I like her, I see potential, I want to take her out on a second, third, 10th date, I'm paying the bill on the first date, point blank, period. So
Let me
that's how I
let's
roll.
throw out let's throw. I think we see some comments in the chat. Ghost Cab says, "I'm old school, man. Been married for a long time, but on the first date, the man needs to pay the whole way in that first date."
That's where I'm
Let's see.
from. Yeah,
Bobby
I don't
says
know.
it's a lesson learned at his expense. But at least 50% off of his expense.
50%. You got the clearance date.
Leave that clearance. Nova Dasher, what's up? I think it's part of the chase. And
That's a good Nova. I can get down with that. I it is part of it, maybe. Yeah.
that her Jamie heard someone say that the women wants guys to be traditional while they stay progressive.
Mm,
Obviously, not all women, but it's sad some think that way. That's a good
yeah,
point. I
it is
didn't
a
I
good
didn't get a
point.
chance to think about that, but that's why it's so damn confusing for dating. And thank God I don't
Yeah,
have to worry about too much of that anymore, right? Where
yeah,
women are, and we'll talk about this more and later on in the podcast, that women are more educated now. They make more money. They sometimes make more money than the men they're trying to talk to, or they're trying to talk to them, but they still want that traditional, you pay for, it's like the male pays for everything. They want to be taken care of. But it's like, damn girl, you got more money than I do. You take care of me.
yeah.
But
Well,
they don't
and then
want that.
it goes to my point. If I've had women ask me for my number, and what's your situation? Blah blah blah. Like,
Of
and
course. Look at
if
that
they're
face.
no, no, I'm just saying it's been a long time, right? I'm not young anymore.
I'm just
But
fucking with you.
what I'm saying, hey, you're the one with the cuddle app. I don't know what you're
I
talking
know,
about, bro.
right? Ugh,
Listen,
shit,
but what I'm
nothing.
saying is, if a woman asks me out, okay, if she asks me out and we're out eating or whatever, and she's like, "Hey, I got you," like, I wouldn't necessarily fight her on that. If she asked me, like, I'm all for women like flexing a little bit. It's all good. We're both human. You know what I'm saying? Like, no big deal, right? But like most of the time, I think men are the one that are pursuing and want, hey, let me take you out. Let me take you out. I'll take care of you, girl. Where you like to go? You like lobster? You like Applebee's? What do you like? What do you like? Right? Whatever your fancy is. And that if the dude's pursuing, the dude's got to pay the first date. I think that's just kind of
You don't want to
respectful,
go. You don't want to go
you know?
lobster the first date.
I mean, it depends on how she looks, bro. If she's,
Well,
if she's a dime
I
piece,
tell
you
you
got to
this
go
right now.
lobster.
I'm paying for lobster. Man. Anywho,
We cuddling.
you're at least CF boss. If he did pay, she'll think he was quote unquote too nice. She could have also been using him for a free meal. If he doesn't pay, then he's not a real man. Chivalry was also killed by feminism. That's a really popular argument.
Yeah.
Who made women more manly and self-reliant. Kuala Ya, she says, I like the old school way. I think a lot of us do, but at the same time, it is confusing because women at one point didn't go to college as often as men, didn't work in the kind of jobs as men. But now we're getting there. We're getting the gap is kind of closing, but women still want that traditional, or at least to be honest, I think most women want that level of at least traditional chivalrous male.
I think so.
It's well taken care of. And yes, in my view, I would agree. Whoever initiated date. But even if that was true, even if the woman initiated date, most likely I would pay. If you can't afford to go out to eat, do not ask anyone out, male or female, especially as a man. Do not ask if you don't have enough money. Right?
Yes.
If you don't have enough, I've been taught this. If you don't have enough money to tip, do not go out because you need. First of all, you shouldn't be just making money or spending money to the point where you broke. You should have enough money. You have enough money, right? Like you can go out, have a good time, and not, the next day start to worry about. Oh man, I'm gonna pay this bill. How to pay that bill? So you have to be responsible, but at the same time, I do believe that. The male, because like I said, usually the person that's doing the pursuing. First date should be you pay. And you don't have to go crazy. I would say coffee dates, but I know that's another point of contention. Some women say, you better not be taking me on a coffee date at first date, you better take me out to dinner. And I'm like, whoa, we don't know each other yet.
Yeah. And there's definitely that. Some women want to be taken out, and men too. Like they want to be taken out fancy, like first date, bro. Like first date for me. Back in the day when I was a young pimp, right? Listen, first date, we go into the park and shooting balls sometimes. Like depending on how you
dates, that's always good to get to know each other.
A walk-in day, we're gonna go to the zoo. We might go a walk in the park. You get coffee. Maybe you get a cocktail after work. That's like gonna cost you $20 to buy 2 drinks. So you're not spending a lot of money. So you don't have to. And then you have a conversation, and then you see, is this somebody I want to break bread with? Okay, well then we go for a second date, third, So I think we have to I think sometimes people and men are guilty of this. We try to flex for these girls, right? And we're trying to I'm gonna take fancy, like I said, lobster, la. And then
because you jump in, you're giving them a high expectation now. First date, lobster, and then next date, pizza at a corner pizza.
We Netflixing and chilling on date 2. Like
that's a good question. Should a man tell a woman ahead of time he wants to go Dutch? Yeah, because you know what? If Dutch is a big deal, because she'll probably let you know right now this ain't happening. At least you wait, you didn't waste your time and all that. But at the same time, I thought we all progressed. Like, hey, quality, right? When you hang out with your boys and then y'all go out to eat or something like that, we split, right? Right? You're like,
I
get one round. We change rounds, but it's not much of a conversation. It's not much of an issue about when 2 friends are out. We mostly will split it, but women don't want that. They don't want it. They want.
Well, I don't. Let me ask you a question. Do you think? I think you kind of mentioned it a moment ago. And I think it's just general, there's people that are out of the norm, but do you think most women they want to be taken care of?
Absolutely.
To a certain level.
Even the most accomplished women who make more money. I think at this point, definitely last year and the year before, my chick made more money than I have because of all of the stuff that, W2 gone, got to do the gig work, got to build yourself up.
Yeah.
But there's also other ways to be taken care of, obviously. But yes, she wants to be taken care of. She wants someone to listen to her ramble. She wants that. Like, it's not even necessarily a financial thing. yes, that's a part of it, but just being there to make sure that even something needs to be done, someone to talk to, be vulnerable with. So it's a lot of that, and
Yeah.
I think that is important. It's not necessarily just all about the money, but you look at her. I think she's Colombian. I looked at some of her Instagram. You could probably tell traditional, but then you see how some of that red pill, manosphere, like I said, the Kevin Samuels type, like, oh, she was just trying to get him for his money. What if she was just looking for a traditional situation?
And a lot of Hispanic women, Latino women look for that a lot.
Yeah,
like 99%, I would say. Yeah,
yeah.
No,
So
that's
little,
like yeah.
It's not saying that one thing is wrong, but like it's a culture. It's also what's going on in the society. But I thought that was interesting. I think she should have told him at the end. It's like, well, you ghost to me. Like she wanted him to learn a lesson, but you could just say, hey, listen, I didn't like that, but I'm not gonna talk to you anymore. But give him sometimes. Growing up, learning how to talk to women or deal with women. If you didn't have an older brother or uncle or dudes in neighbor, how would you really learn? I mean, now it's YouTube, but back in the day, you learned from your older people in your circle who would tell you. And then if you had a bad group that didn't know what the hell they were doing, you just following the bad advice.
We've all been there. I'm still learning, man. What are you talking about? I still have to check in with Madison. Everywhere, like, we good? You good? You having a good day? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, you need something? Like, we good? Like, but like, it's tough, man. I feel I'm lucky I'm not like dating now, because when I was young, I was a savage, bro. Like, I was not a very respectable young man all the time, and now I feel like the game's changed so much, and I think it's even easier in some ways, but harder in others. So it's weird. But like, I wouldn't want to be, it's. I think it's easy to like meet so many different women now because of social media, but I think it's harder to date, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
I think
the hookup culture is probably easier, but
yes,
finding commitment is more difficult. There's
difficult.
too much options.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of that. Nova Dasher confirms Latino women 101% traditional.
Yes.
And Ghost Cap, women probably just want a man they can count on. That perfect.
And that's hard to find. I think that's hard right now, because of some of the things we're going to talk about tonight, just with the way men are growing up, evolving, learning. Men are struggling in a lot of ways, right? And I think we're going to get into some of that tonight. So
let's just jump in it. I'm sure you've seen a few articles. It seems like it's coming out now more than ever, where there's people who are writing books on this. There's there's New York Times articles. There's a lot of videos about. It seems like a generational shift where, and the way society is kind of run, and the way economics is, and how the way that our grandfathers live life is not the same. And a lot of men, a lot of boys are falling behind. A lot of them are out the workforce permanently. They're not even looking for work. Many of them are not in college, either they dropped out. Obviously, grades, especially the last 2 years, where everyone's grades has fell back because of what happened with the Rona, that boys are getting basically left behind. Then they turn into men, and then they're left behind. And history has shown when there's a lot of young men detached from their community, from their society, things can go in a terrible direction. Why? Because a powerful leader, maybe having nefarious ideas, can be that sense of value for them, and they can steer them into the wrong direction. So there's a few clips I want to put up. There's a writer, I think Robert Reeves. He explains a lot of this in a very easy to understand, details. So we're gonna be playing clips and kind of responding to some of the stuff that he's going to be talking about in this. So, it's from a YouTube channel called Breaking Points. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that YouTube channel. I love it. It's one of the very few channels. It's political, but they talk about social issues. They talk about a lot of labor issues, and it's two hosts, it's Sagar and Crystal. Sagar is the conservative, Crystal is the liberal. And they have nuanced discussions, And I love the fact that they're not sycophants to one side. So Sagar is not like pro Trump nonsense, and Crystal's not pro AOC. Like they have brains, and they can use the brains, and it's a really good channel. So they invited this author, and they had a really good conversation. So I'm gonna do like 1 minute clips here and there, just to kind of illustrate crisis men and boys are having. So let me put this on right now.
Joining us now, Richard Reeves. He's a senior fellow with the Brookings Institute and is the author of a very interesting new book, Of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why It Matters, and What to Do About It. Richard, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Richard, first of all, why did you decide to write this book? And what were the social kind of impetus and why you thought it was important to society to have this conversation?
I kept seeing ways in which it was boys and men who are really struggling. To be clear, it's mostly working class boys and men, black boys and men. It's not the upper middle class. But I don't think we can understand inequality in the US without understanding what's happening to boys and men. I also felt, frankly, there was a bit of a gap because both sides politically are so dug in the culture wars around issues of sex and gender that it's even hard to have a book with that title without getting a reaction from people.
Yeah.
And so I almost felt like, as a Brookings scholar, given the work I've done, that trying to create a better conversation. We need a better conversation about re-scripting masculinity than we're currently getting, and this book is my attempt to do that.
So that was a really interesting line, to re-script masculinity, to because it's not the same as it was decades prior. And I really like the idea, or at least I resonate with the idea that I think a lot of the problems with the political elites, right, on both sides, at least especially on the left, is they don't see the problem because all the males in their group are doing well, right? Like he said, it's the working class, it's the black and brown boys. It's in my community, in my neighborhood, where there's 13-year-old boys beating each other up, robbing each other. It's a 20-year-old in the subways slashing people. The young men are committing more crimes in decades at this point, right? We're falling back to the 70s in terms of the crime, especially in New York City. That's why everyone's leaving.
Yeah,
it's young men and boys who are completely and utterly lost. And I guess in his book, he's trying to figure out a way, how do you fix this problem? How do you, like I said, redefine masculinity? Because maybe that can save some of these boys. It's crazy. I mean, what do you think about in terms of your community and the young men and boys around where you live? Like what's going on over there?
Yeah, I think it's we have these. If I think about like my grandfathers or like my father, like very old school Hispanic Puerto Rican men, right? Very traditional in some ways when they were growing up, but now even my dad has shifted, and he's like he's liberal, he's progressive, he's out, he's thinking differently because he has kids now and grandchildren, but like I feel like this new trying to reshape masculinity, I feel like it's been reshaped considerably. If you look at like the family dynamics and a father role and son's role, if you're going back to like the 50s and 60s in this country, and even like people that came from where your family came from, where my family came from, and they we're first generation or whatnot, right? Second generation. And like, it's definitely changed. And I think like it went in some cases too far. Like some would say men have become too soft. If you ask a certain kind of, men are too soft. They're, pussified, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. You got to be a man, rub dirt on it. Don't cry. You don't go to therapy, all that BS. Right.
Right.
And men have started to go to therapy more. And even in our communities, the black and brown community, where the generation before us, that was shunned upon, right? But now it's looked upon like, okay, a strong man knows when he needs help and asks for help and has good connections with other men. Whereas 50 years ago, that was a weakness. But now it's like, are we getting too weak to where we don't, we're not manly enough, and then women don't respect us? Like, we're in a really weird spot right now. And I think that's why around me, I see a lot of young men. When I say young men, I'm talking like 25 to 40, in that kind of age range, where marginally employed, not happy, depressed, can't find a soulmate, don't know how to relate to women or even other men around them to share and empathize with each other. So it's like we're in this, some men want to be emotional and like have their feelings in tow, but then if they go too far, they're looked upon as not a man anymore.
Yep.
And then some of them are too manly or whatever that means, right? Too traditional, and then those guys are called like assholes and jerks, right? Because they're not progressive enough. So around me I see this really mixed bag of both, and it's tough because like you want to sprinkle in the good of everything, right? But it's hard to find that spot for a lot of men, and it's hard for us to, because sometimes when we are vulnerable with women, in that moment, women will tell us, "Thank you, I love that." Oh my, but then they don't continue to date you because you looked weak, right?
Yeah.
And then if you are too aggressive, too manly, some women are like, what? No, I can do for my own. I don't need you to be like that." But then some women really want that. So we're in a really weird spot, and I think a lot of men don't know what they need to be, and not enough of us are secure in our own skin to just be ourselves, because we're trying to satisfy the people around us for satisfying ourselves, if that makes sense. So I think we're in a weird spot. And I think that's why a lot of these young men, you see these crazy crimes. It's the same kind of person committing these, like doing these crazy things. And I think it's a lot of men are lost and we're falling behind, like you had mentioned. And it starts even from a younger age with the schooling and getting pushed into things and being told certain things and young trauma within boys. And I feel like it's an issue. And I think it's been like that for 30 years or so, and we're starting to see some of the fallout from that.
Yeah. Hector has been dropping some really good comments on it. It's very simple. Instead of us being the best version of ourselves, we're just competing with each other, and we're not in the right state of mind. Ghost Cap, very important. It starts at the home. We need strong parents raising these young fellas. I was even talking about this, I think, at the end of our last podcast when we went off air, about boys needing coaches. They need people, strong people to guide them, because at home they may not have anyone there.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's anything else. Nova had a KD attack. It's totally fine.
Already.
Hey, listen. All right. You know what? I'm not gonna get into it. whatever, Nova. Also, Hector's also saying way too much dependence on drugs and alcohol. Obviously the pandemic just took everything to the next level. Everyone is more and more upset, sad, lost, no focus. Q says, it depends on the woman. I want my man to be open and vulnerable with me. On the real, I don't judge or throw in their face, which is great.
That's how it should be. But it's not always like that.
One caveat I think I would have is, because I my cousin kind of had this. She was talking about her boyfriends and saying, and emotional support. And I was saying, hey, listen, your boyfriend is not a psychiatrist. All right. So if you're looking for this, you may need a professional, and you don't want to burden your mate with a lot of things they can't even help you with. Of course they should listen, but don't use him as a free therapist, because he's going to listen, but he may not have any techniques to help you figure this out. You still want to make sure you're going to a professional therapist. So that was, so you want to be there, you want to be vulnerable, but I don't think a woman deserves a man to come into the house after a long day and just unload all of his problems every day. She doesn't want to hear that. And it never works the other way. So I'm not even going to say women, they're going to do it anyway. Well, one woman comes home, she's going to, it's like, all right. But,
to touch on what you're saying, I think it's important. And this is, I'm going to speak a little bit from personal experience with you guys and take it as you want, right? I have felt the best in the last 5 years of my life because I have found a few guys that I can relate to and share with and bounce ideas off of, and say, hey, this is really struggling. I'm struggling with my girl in this way, or my kids, or this or that, or money, or finances, or just I'm not feeling, to having those really like vulnerable conversations with another man in a way of like, okay, he understands my perspective. He understands what it's like to be a man, a provider, or whatever that is in your life. You're not going to get that same type of empathy and understanding from your partner. You're just not. Mm-hmm. And when you can have that, it's a good balance for me. And if I want to come home and dump on my girl, about all my issues. Like, it's just, then she's like thinking I'm complaining and I'm not, fortunate for what we have. And like, but if I talk to my boys about that, it's different. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think women even need that with their girls in a positive way, like, so you can't, I don't think it's so, I think it's sometimes really tricky and can be unhealthy if your significant other is your 100% outlet for everything.
Yes,
That
exactly.
could be,
Yeah.
it could be tricky down the
It's
line.
exhausting. You don't want to
It
exhaust your
can be.
mate. Like, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, of course, when you really need to talk to them, of course they're going to be there and they should be there. But
Yeah.
you don't want to, be like, it's not an emotional support dog. It's a human being. So you want to have that ability to, like I said, find other outlets. Like I said, you have a group of friends that you can have that conversation. They're prepared for it. It's in the, basically it's in the game. You know what I mean? Like they know the rules. Compared to if your lady is at home watching, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and you come in with your shit. Like, oh, I can't believe what happened. Like, she's trying to watch the show. We know what I'm talking about.
My girl watches that show and I can't stand it, bro.
I'm sorry, Pedro.
I know. I just leave the room.
But often when we talk about the issues with men, the other side, the more the progressive saying, listen, women are still behind. They still have their problems. They still got to deal with so much. Like, yeah, that's all well and good. It's all true. But it's important to have both conversations. We can have both conversations at the same time. So this is one clip where he talks about that real quick right here. Found it.
If we look down at what's happening in the rest of society, most American men today earn less than most American men did in 1979.
Yes.
There's a huge gender gap in education. Men are 3 times more likely to die from a death of despair, from alcohol, suicide, drug overdose. And so the trouble is that people who are just living in these elite circles look around and go, well, I don't see it. And so, well, partly it might be there and you're not seeing it, but also just look down. Look at the rest of society. We've seen such a big increase in economic inequality that we have to think about both those things at once. And partly this book is a challenge to say, can we think 2 things at once? Can we think there's much more to do for women in certain sectors of society, but now we also need to look at boys and men. And right now, it's proving very difficult to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's more, and a lot of it is based on history of what's going on. I know the Me Too movement was a big deal. My childhood hero was Bill Cosby. That didn't turn out very well in terms of
that didn't age well. Yeah.
No, it didn't. No, it did not. So it's like a lot of men, and not a lot. Well, powerful men. Some powerful men exploited their power.
Yes.
And messed up for everybody else. That kind of thing is the one bad apple just creates such a issue. But we could have both conversations where, yes, there's still issues going on with women, but at the same time, boys are getting left behind. Like I said, we're earning less money as a collective. Now, well, I mean, 70s getting so old now. I thought the 70s were 30 years ago. No, it's 50 years ago.
It's like 50, bro. That's crazy, right?
So old. But that's like back then. It's a whole different world. That was 50 years ago. So
that's
it's
a whole nother world.
A whole nother world. And then we kind of, a lot of people still look at the Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Most men don't earn that.
No.
Yes, they're outliers.
Yeah.
So it's like, all these men, trust me, go outside and look at the average man, how much they're making, right? They're not making that, right? So like, yes, those are very elite of the elite. Not most men. Most men do not make that kind of money. So I guess that's a very important distinction. We could have both conversations at the same time.
Yeah, I think we have to be willing to. I think, it's so weird because like earlier I said, I'm kind of, in some ways, I'm very traditional with roles. And like, that's why me and my girl Madison, like we work out very well. Like we have some traditional things, but then things that aren't, and it works out for us. You have to find the person that matches with you, and you guys work off each other's strengths and weaknesses. I think that's ultra important for me, at least. That's what I've learned. But like, we also have to remember, like, men have an extreme amount of pressure, right? So while women, I think in a lot of ways have been disrespected, it's taken a long time for them to have, certain types of rights that men have had, and just even with voting and just a lot of things. We could talk about a million things that men have done to women that have been not okay, right? But men have an immense amount of pressure. Okay. Men are the one going to most wars and battles in the history. We're the ones that built. We're building all the infrastructure and all the stuff. We do most of the dangerous jobs. You know, it's you save the women and children. Men are always the ones to die first. Like there's a lot of things that I think we don't think about when it comes to a man's like health, physical and psychological. And I think society puts different types of pressures on men and women. And for us, I feel like it's a physical and like exhausting pressure just to even keep up in some ways. And I think that pressure is causing us to fall back.
Right.
And I think with young women, we've always known that they've matured quicker. They're a little smarter at younger ages. So now like that gap is closed and women are surpassing men in a lot of ways, whether it's financially, education, the numbers say that, right? And I think that's defeating for some men. The average man, that's defeating. It's like, oh my God. So now we don't even know how to approach women. We, like Nova said, we don't know how to talk or try to get a date. And it's like this kind of this negative cycle that I think a lot of us are in right now.
Yeah. Bobby has a good comment. As time change, role expectations are changing. Men in the 70s had far different expectations than men now. And that's 100% true. We don't know what to do now because certain things change. So going back to college, right? It's a really good clip, real fast. Talking about how boys are falling behind in college.
Why should women care about how men are doing in society?
Yeah, so in education, I think just to put a few data points on it, we've long worried about gender inequality in education, but it's typically been worrying about getting girls and women to catch up with boys and men. And so in 1972, the US passed the famous Title IX legislation to try and get more girls and women into college in particular. And at that point, men were about 13 percentage points more likely to get a college degree than women. Today, it's 15 percentage points more likely that a woman will get it than a man.
Wow.
So the gender gap is actually bigger in college education today than when Title IX was passed. It's just the other way around. It's flipped. If we look at high school GPA, you've got a high schooler, and I've had some recently.
Yeah.
High school GPA is a really good measure because A, it's increasingly important in college admissions, and B, it's quite a good proxy for overall success. Let's look at high school GPA. The top performers in terms of high school GPA, those in the top 10%, destined for good colleges, 2/3 girls. The bottom 10%, 2/3 boys.
We're stupid. We're just dumb. We don't know. No simple math. I'm a part of it. Listen, I didn't start really paying attention to school until I went to college. Like that's where I really started to. It's like, because I went to school. I had potential, but I would just goof off. I would rather play wrestle with the friends and play video games. that did not put enough effort in education. I had the potential, just didn't until I went to a community college and sat into a desk and heard no one talk. You ever been to a classroom and no one spoke?
It's
and
awkward.
the teacher just did his lecture. Like,
yeah.
Holy crap! I'm actually learning.
But it's weird. But like, it's also like, I don't know. I didn't only did a semester and a half of college at a community college. So like, I can't speak to, but like, I always liked the classes that were like super interactive. And sometimes like if I had a professor just talking, like I was like, I'd want to go to sleep, but I don't know. That's my experience.
Bobby asks, is it men being left behind or women finally catching up? I think it's a little bit of both. And he has more to say. I have more clips on it, but he kind of explains why that happened in terms of, and it's really, a lot of it is biology. Women are able to do the traditional roles in education more effectively than men. And it has nothing to do with, I guess you could say it's cultural, but at the same time, it's their brains they're able to sit there and focus on tasks, and we just probably focus on our dicks, and that's why we probably can't get it done. I mean, it just we're too.
Listen, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not
Pedro,
wrong.
how many times you've been in a classroom, especially junior high and high school, where you could not focus? All you thought about was women. Like you're sitting there and like, I just not focused right now.
I still do it. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't. I mean, listen, I'm just being honest. Like, I'll just be, listen, if I'm at the grocery store and I'll be even with my chick, I'm like, damn, I'm a pig, I guess. I don't know. But like in high school, forget
no
about
way,
it,
right?
man.
So women are able to do that. So that's the problem, right? It's college, we're falling behind. Women, and not even college, it's high school. GPAs, the tops are women. The bottom 2/3 are us.
You know,
And
it's fascinating because so we have this information now, right? And this is like data, like you could back it up. It's not
yeah,
opinion. Like, these
yeah,
are numbers based, GPA, admissions, da la la. And I understand there's more women CEO now ever, and times have changed, but there still isn't. If you look at it, if we're talking about women earning more on certain levels, higher GPA, that hasn't yet transcended into the boardrooms in the same way as far as percentages go, and the
yeah.
CEOs and women running these Fortune 500 companies. It's happening, but it's still a male dominated
And you're
workforce.
right, and that's why it's a great that you could still have both of the conversations. Yeah, the top of the top, that still needs
Man,
to be worked out, right?
it's still men. Yeah,
But I'm focused, or at least I'm like when he said, look down. The 2/3 of us need some help. Like we didn't figure it out. Like what can we do to strengthen it? Because I think if we lift everything up, everybody up, helps society in general, right? So
yeah,
if we're at the bottom of high school GPA, that doesn't help society as a whole. Then that leads to men to drop out the workforce or go to crime because they figure out what they're good at. And they're like, well, I can do
yeah.
crime really well. Not really. They're going out of jail. But I think by trying to figure out what's going on, and like Bobby said earlier, the jobs at the 70s, the factory jobs are gone. So he talks a lot about it. A lot of those jobs are gone right now.
So a massive reversal in the gender gap in education. What that means is that struggling to hit the labor market in the employment, you've talked a lot about this.
Yes.
In automation, free trade, like what's happened to the working class men. Working class men can't get the jobs their dad got with the same level of education. And so there's been a really difficult adjustment for men in the labor market. And one of the consequences of that is for family formation.
Yes.
So we see a number of men now who effectively get benched because they're not fulfilling the traditional male role. We haven't re-scripted a role for them. And so they end up out of touch with their kids' lives, which is particularly bad for their sons, actually.
That's one of the things I think is most important is, especially I think in American society, we have this concept of masculinity that is centered around being the breadwinner.
Correct.
And then when you make it more and more difficult to fulfill that role, it's like, okay, well, what am I then? What is the role that I'm supposed to, or am I just a failure? Like, am I terrible? And that opens up a window for people who maybe don't have the best messaging to come and say, well, it's these, I was going to say these B words, but
yes.
We can't say that.
it's these ladies over here who are really your problem. Yeah.
It's the feminists'
It's not
fault.
nice.
That's right. It's the feminist's fault. There you go.
That's a really strong laugh. But anyway.
No, but she made a good point about men feeling like they needed to be the breadwinner to feel valued.
Pride, man.
And
Pride.
it's a crazy thing. But then think about what we've just been through in the last couple of years, right? Men or people, but we'll just say for this particular conversation, men losing their jobs, furloughed, laid off, right? Having to do this kind of work now. Maybe they haven't gone back to work yet, and they were the breadwinner and provider. That takes a hit on your pride.
It shatters a lot of men.
It does.
Alcoholism
Divorce rates went up.
Yeah.
People start doing this, drinking more. So it's this Rona, as my friend Hannibal likes to call it. Like, it shifted a lot. We haven't even seen, in my opinion, the true repercussions of all that. I don't think yet fully.
But it's interesting because sometimes pride can be a good thing, right? Or at least something that continues to motivate you to provide, or not provide, at least help, or at least say, hey, listen, I lost my job. Like, for me, I lost it before the lockdowns, right? And then I started to realize, like, I still need to do something. So I have a car, I signed up for an app, and I went and kept and I always kept a positive view, like, all right, this is crazy times, but I'm gonna figure this out. And I always had also that support system that didn't give me a lot of grief because of what happened, was there to support me. So you still need that support. And what happens if that support isn't there? There's no support. You lost a job. I can't pay these bills. What are you gonna do? And that pressure mounts, and that pressure. And then you turn to other drugs and alcohol. Really good comment from CC. Thank you for taking the time to watch us. Men and boys are in a crisis for sure. To all the males out there, talk to someone. Normalize therapy and not drugging or fucking the feelings away. Let the men speak. Feel free to talk about their feelings, of course. Of course. But then how do you like I said, re-script this where men were considered the breadwinners? There is no factory job where you're able to afford a home,
It's tough.
probably
It's
2
harder
cars,
now. It's
take your
hard.
kids to college, and you had a high school education.
Back, so even just if you look in, I read was it an article or a video? Maybe it was both. Back in just in the 80s, okay, a breadwinner of a family, whether it was men or women, right, if you had both parents having minimum wage jobs, could have get a mortgage in this country, could afford groceries and a car. Right now, it's impossible. It's literally impossible to have a minimum wage job, or even to make $20 an hour, okay, which is above minimum wage in most places, and have those same things.
Yeah.
Because inflation and everything else. So it's like we even the men now, in my opinion, in some ways, have it harder than our fathers did. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah,
Like,
of course. Yeah.
I mean, so what does that do to your psychology? It's like my father, he had his first house. We bought a house. He was, I think, 27. I got my first house when I was 39 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm competing with, and I make more money at 39. I made more money at 27 than my dad did at 27, but he was able to afford a house. So it's like it's continually getting harder, I think, for us in a lot of ways.
And if they did, and a lot of the older folks forgot about that, and they're telling you how you're just lazy, you just didn't do it. And back in my day, and like you remember what happened back in your day?
Exactly.
Candy was a penny, my dude. You can get candy for a penny. You can get a burger for 50 cents. Like you forgot about that. How much get a burger? Go to any burger joint, get a burger for 50 cents. See what they tell you.
Yeah,
like,
go to McDonald's right now and get a Big Mac meal. It's $10.
Yeah, they get the hell out of here, bro.
$10. Like, come on. Like when my dad was around, it was like $3.99. Like, think about that. Think about that difference. Inflation hasn't. We're not making more for the same type of job.
No, we're just working harder. We're smarter than our father and grandfather, and we still don't have enough money. Like, this is a really fun joke. This when I was a kid, anyway. My father gave me $1, and he was like, "Get 100 Jolly Ranchers." And I looked at this nigga like, "Wait, what? You got $1?" And then I looked at my mom was there too. She started laughing. It's like, no, it doesn't cost a penny. He's like, "Really?" Like, yeah.
But you know what? When I was a kid, we had the penny store, Ben Franklin. I don't know if anybody in the chat.
Yeah.
Ben Franklin, me and my sister would go. We're like 9, 10, penny store. Legit. My mother would each give us $1. And she'd be like, all right, you can't get 100, but you can get 96 or whatever because of tax.
Yeah.
And we would literally get 96 penny candies. Right now, that would cost me $5.
Yeah, even some of these 99-cent stores are not 99 cents anymore, right? Or 5 and below.
Yeah.
No, that's how it is. And education is too expensive. That's inflated. It's and then the problem is that a lot of those degrees aren't worth, but you're paying for them. When you come out, you have all this debt. So it's just a endless cycle. But that's the problem with a lot of the jobs. The jobs that your grandfather and your father have are not here now. So we talk about all the sad stuff. Like, okay, so what solutions? How can we fix this? Right? He brings so many solutions in this next clip.
We have a lot of people listening to this show. Maybe they have kids. What should they be thinking about with regards to your book?
Well, I think the first thing is something not to do. And I think that's not to fall into the trap of thinking there's something toxic about masculinity. I do think that this term toxic masculinity has become itself toxic, frankly, because the message that society is then sending, which I think parents can absorb and inadvertently maybe pass on, is there's something wrong with you. And so if you're behaving in a particular way, which on average is more associated with being male, then I think that to pathologize that, say physicality or more potential for aggression and so on, is not the way to help boys learn to manage that. So recognize there are some differences between them. It's a myth, there are no differences. Absolutely, you want equality of opportunity for both. Interestingly, now there's some evidence that people are starting to think it's more important for their girls to go get a good education than their boys. And that's not true. And I'm very worried that in some households, and this seems to be particularly true in more working class households, that educational success itself is being seen as more feminine. And it's incredibly important to send a message to the boys that actually you succeeding at school, you having chances at college or apprenticeships is just as important as your sister.
That's really important. That has not ever happened in my family. My father was always really like everyone needs to be educated. But I seen that a lot of my friends, families, and a lot of situations, and especially in the black community, where yeah, the girls going to college or going nursing, they doing well, and the dude is like, yeah, he's figured it out, or yeah, let's that's not a good idea. Education is not feminine; it's everything. Everyone needs to be educated as much as they could possibly can, and that's not a good start to have that because boys are more naturally aggressive or physical. I mean, that's just what boys do, right? Me and my son, we probably play fight every day. I'm dunking him on it. Like, that's just what we're supposed to do. But to take, because again, girls are easier the structure of education is easier for them to thrive in. After the last clip I'll show, they talk like it's just easier for girls to thrive in, but no, education is not feminine at all. Let me see. I was looking at some of the comments. All right, so let me put the last comment about the education between boys and girls.
What's happened in education is that we've created a playing field which is much more even. And what that's demonstrated is that actually women and girls are at a structural advantage in the education system. So we've created a level playing field, and it turns out that the women and girls are better players. But they're better players largely because of the developmental differences, because their brains develop earlier, and especially the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is a bit of your brain that says, do your chemistry homework rather than going out to party. Maybe you should care about your GPA because that will help you get into college. It's about future orientation. It's about the ability to control yourself, and it just develops a year or two later in boys than girls. And so I actually think that we're seeing one of the great ironies is that by taking the brakes off girls and women in the education system, we've revealed the structural advantages they had all along. We couldn't see it because they weren't going to college.
Right.
Under conditions of sexism, we couldn't see the advantages that girls and women had in education. And nobody expected this overtaking, by the way. If you go back to the 70s when everyone was pushing hard, correctly, for girls and women to do better, nobody said, well, wait, what if the lines keep going? And does it matter? Well, to the extent that education matters, increasingly in the modern economy, I think we should be worried about any inequalities by group, whether that's race, gender, etc. So I don't think on its face there's any reason to be more relaxed about the gender gap now than in the 1970s.
Another really good point. So these are some of the solutions. I think it's a little screen right here. So I was actually talking to Pedro about this weeks ago, but his solution is red shirting, right? I'm sure you guys familiar. Well, if you're into sports, you're familiar with it. Having boys start a year later than girls. And he's talking more about the working class stuff and, obviously the black and brown folks recruiting more men, especially African-American men as teachers, generally getting men into what is largely a feminine dominating job, health, education, administration, and literacy, while continuing to stress women participation in the STEM fields. What's your I didn't know if you had. I didn't think I got your
opinion on
about red shirting boys starting at school a year later. What do you think about that?
I don't know how to feel about it, honestly, because I don't have enough information. But initially, it seems odd, only for this reason for me. So does that mean? And this might be really ignorant. I don't know. But so then, all the girls start kindergarten, 6 years old, and it's a classroom full of girls, and there's no boys. And how does that shape how young girls interact? Because now the next year they're growing up a little more. Kids grow up really fast, so now they're in first grade.
Yeah,
and then in first grade, then boys are there. Like I feel like it's very different. It's very odd. I'm not saying it could be bad or good, but I feel like that's maybe not the solution. I don't know. I think we need, for me, in my opinion, the second bullet point there about having more men of color as teachers is a huge.
just more men as teachers.
Yes, more. We need to have kids see different types of people, maybe even people that look like them as teachers, and more men as teachers. And I think we need that. I think that helps boys in some ways. But I feel like the education system as a whole needs to be reworked in some ways,
Yeah, so he'll say, so Bobby has it like the girls will be 5, they'll just be 6, so they'll be a little bigger.
Yeah, but then so then girls are already advanced and they grow a little quicker. So if you're saying girls will be
the brain
boys,
right?
You say the boys will be 6 and the girls will be 5.
Yeah, because basically they're just gonna come in a little later because we're silly and we're not taking it. We need
Yeah.
our brains are still developing because girls develop faster.
Yeah.
I
So then what do you do when you have a household and you have a girl and a boy and you're telling your daughter you get to go to kindergarten because you're just smarter and you get
use
to start
faster.
earlier? What does that do to that young boy? You're
I'm sure
starting
that
him off.
boy is like, oh, I get to stay home for another year. I'm chilling.
Maybe, but also you're being excluded, right? So I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of other things that are bigger issues for me with that. But I just think the education system as a whole needs to be redone. For me, I feel like the education system is very old. It's just old. It's outdated. I think
But
the
what's your
things that we're even teaching them is not really relevant enough sometimes.
Yeah.
So
But if you just say, let's redo it, but the girls are doing well. So what you're saying to the girls, if you say, well, we need to change this system up, and the girl's like, wait, hold a second.
yeah,
We're thriving over here, homeboy.
it's
What you
about
trying
time.
to say?
We're doing good. Hold on,
So what you
don't
trying like
pause us.
so that's why I'm thinking that idea is controversial. It'll never happen. But I think it's a radical idea, but I think it's a good
Yeah.
idea. I
You
think
do? Yeah.
I think right now the current system isn't working for boys. I think boys also the fact that you have to get someone to sit down for 8 hours on a desk to learn. Yeah, girls are able to do a little better than us. Especially if you got a little bit of attention issues.
Yeah.
Boys want to do physical stuff. I think other schools in Europe where they get up and go places, it's actually real like going
It's more
outside,
interactive. Yeah.
interactive. Maybe some boys are more visual. They need to be physically able to see something. We totally destroyed trades in high school where they had
Yes.
shops and vocational
Which was
stuff.
a bad
We threw
which was a
all that
bad
away.
thing.
So
Yep.
where a boy can really learn how to take care of build something. I mean, that's what my son is really into the engineering stuff and playing with the Legos and putting stuff together.
Yeah.
That's very interactive. Where you sitting on a desk, they have the board. I know now they got tablets and all this stuff. It's a different dynamic. So is it bad to start them later? Maybe, right? But the way, I guess, you know what? Instead of just saying everyone belongs in this one spot, how can we get people who learn differently to go in a different direction in terms of, okay, if they're more visual and physical, they need to, let's put them here so they can
Yeah.
thrive. Oh, who
Yeah.
just able to handle the traditional sit down and do all right, thrive here instead of let's put everyone in the same classroom. Because right now, yeah, the boys are just getting lapped.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I think for some kids, but we're talking about boys or men here. I think it's the way some people learn is different. It just is. Some people can learn at a desk and with a teacher and a whiteboard, and that works for them. Others need to be more physically engaged and like
Yeah.
use their hands to learn or read something on their own pace. And then,
Exactly.
and I feel like a lot of our kids I think they're into schools too much.
Yeah.
I think, the 7 hours, the 8 hour, like they're in
Just
a
physically
desk.
in that building.
Yes, we're teaching in a way that this might be a little conspiracy. I don't know. It conditions you to enter into the work field and be in a cubicle
Oh,
in
that's
the same way,
absolutely that
right?
was planned.
So,
That was planned.
right,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we don't. We don't have that kind of work in America. Is shifting. So shouldn't
Mhm.
right? Because we're not in cubicles like we were in the 80s and 90s and 70s. We're not. Like we are in some trades, but more people are working remotely. There's other kind of jobs. There's trades.
Yeah.
So like, why not? I just feel like it needs to be shaken up just a bit. I feel like there should be some classroom time for a few hours. Some schools do this and they're very progressive, but it's still the minority. And we got to get these kids out of the desk a little bit and learn in different ways, I think. But
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think a lot of it is very old, way too old school.
yeah.
Nova Dash said, I don't understand how kids now learn through Zoom. I knew I would fail.
But everything's
They're
on a
not.
computer for the kids, but
They're
they're
not.
not learning. But
They're not learning. During my son's deal when he had to do the whole remote learning, we were basically homeschooling him because the Zoom thing just wasn't working out in terms of he's not really paying attention. Yeah, he didn't enjoy it because he got some kind of social interaction, but it's just a bunch of kids either they don't have the tablet on at the same, they don't have the camera on, They're with some kind of adult. You hear them yelling through the screen. It was a cluster F. Like it just wasn't. That wasn't, especially 5, 6, 7-year-olds. They're not going to pay attention. I would say high schoolers are not paying attention. You need to be physically there, and that kind of goes back to the idea a lot of employers want their workers to come back to the office. And you'd be like, well, why? Because they know most of y'all ain't working. Like most of y'all goofing off, and you need to be physically with someone to know exactly what's going on. And not every type of job, but like you said, the landscape is changing and education is falling behind. And yeah, women are doing well, but overall, we're still behind other countries in terms of education. Like we're not the smartest.
We're way behind. Way behind. Yeah.
Ghost Cab, hands-on education is the best. Even for absolutely.
Most, yeah.
To learn anything, you gotta start it. You gotta do it, and then go through the mistakes, learn. That's the best way, right? You can read theories and watch videos about it, but it's not the same, right?
So so how do you feel? I mean, because I feel like a lot shifted just in the last 10 years with men and health and the pandemic. Yeah, actually kind of made it worse, and we're not dating in these kind of rates. More men are single and or divorced. Like there's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And it's scary to think 10 years from now what kind of world we're going to be in with this, and how the mental state's going to be, and if we continue to be passed up, how is that going to affect our kids, our families? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like we want to have equality. I think that's important, right?
Yeah,
like
of course.
women, we need that, right? But like I almost feel like if in some cases it's too much of that, it could be a bad thing for men. I don't know. I just feel like it's
and he just released his book. I'm definitely going to pick it up and take read that one. But some of the stuff that he's suggesting, it just takes people with some resources and some money, right? Like, okay, yeah, let's get more men into teaching. I have no patience for kids. I have patience for one.
I would
What
love
the future
to
say?
teach, but like
No, the future didn't say that. There's a meme out there that's like fuck them kids. But I love kids, but I just don't. I like my kid. But let's get more men as teachers. Yeah, black, but all shades, because there's way more women teachers than men. Let's bring more male teachers. Let's get more
teachers need to
men
be
into
paid
health
more,
and
though, man.
education.
Teachers have to make more money, man. Like some of these teachers, like I think I don't know. It's tough. I don't know.
Let's get more men in these fields that, like I said, of dominant, and if they're dominant for reasons because of women are like I said, the ability to, I guess, their brains, right? The ability to be more regimented with their task, think long term more than men. We're still goofing off a little bit, even in our 30s sometimes. But not all. Some men could probably still thrive in those industries. So that does help, and that just means resources, programs. You know how like we have all types of programs to get people to do more STEM stuff or get into other sports. You know, like. And a lot of black people don't play baseball as they used to. So they try to bring initiatives. Come on here and play baseball. Like, nah, too slow, dog. But, those types of programs at least be there to get, even if you get a few kids, the generation ahead, 10, 15 years will benefit a community if those type of resources are available. So that's the only thing I could think of. I mean, those are pretty good ideas. Other than that, stay off the internet. I don't know, because that's
almost impossible. Like it's just so hard. I know you've talked about Matthias not having a phone till he was, I think you said 15 or 16.
Yeah, it's just something stupid like that.
Yeah,
like,
good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck.
I'm gonna check in with you just about a year from now and see how you're
it's not right. It's a thing, man. I think especially after 9/11, where every kid, the parents were freaking out because they couldn't contact their kids.
Yes.
So it's normalized grade school kids having phones. Where I don't think that happened. They're like, no, there's a payphone. Call me, and I'll. But now you want connection with your kids, right? What they doing?
Yeah. Well, there's no payphones anymore. Like virtually.
Yeah, there's no.
I mean, there's one payphone in St. Louis that I know of, and I drive by it, and I don't know if it works. I feel like it might.
You should,
but it even just looks weird that it's even there.
Listen, I saw this video a couple of days ago of two little girls. They were at their grandma's house, and they were fascinated with her landline phone.
Her
This to show
like landline, right?
how old. So they picked up the phone. It was like, and they were like, "Yeah, dial the number." Like they started dialing the number. Like, "Yeah, put the phone to your face." It's like, "It's ringing." And I'm like,
That's
"Wow,
crazy.
we're
Crazy.
old." Like,
Crazy.
there was some archaic, like, artifact from.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah,
fast.
but I wouldn't know how to. I've never actually had to play an 8-track before. An 8-track player music. Like I know what they kind of look like, but I've never used one. You know
That's
what I'm
true.
saying? Like,
But you wouldn't freak out about
I
it.
wouldn't freak out
Like a
about it. No.
Betamax. I never had a Betamax by
Me neither.
cart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they looked at it like, or when it will feel really, really old when they do these videos where they do like responses, like kids, they'll have a kid sitting on a table and they'll give them like a old toy to play with, and they would. And it was one episode they gave these kids an Game Boy, original Game Boy, and they're like,
wow.
"What is? Does it have touch screen?"
Yeah.
I'm like, F these kids.
Yeah, but the Game Boy was a shit back in the day.
I love the Game Boy. But it was like, why is it so hard? It's like, is this what people played? I'm like, yes. And we played and we enjoyed it.
It's crazy.
But it's gonna be, I think something we should still continue to talk about because yes, we should normalize, be educated, read. That's not feminine. Like it's even ridiculous even to say that, but we should push our young boys and men to be educated, to pursue those interests, to go into other industries that may be female dominated, but we need to, like he said, I think it's some level of rescripting. Because if you think all I need to be a man is to do A, B, and C, and if you're not doing A, B, and C, well then you're gonna fall in these pit holes of drugs and alcohol and unhealthy behaviors. So we gotta make it seem like it's a good idea,
Yeah. Well, and education, I think we have to also remind, at least for me, you can be educated in a trade. You could learn how to be an engineer, a car mechanic. You could be. There's a lot of plumber, electrician.
We need them. It's not like you don't need it. We need
these are high-paying jobs right out of the field. Like these are good jobs with benefits a lot of times. So, and there's honor in that kind of work.
You're helping people immediately.
We will always need that kind of work. And then, obviously there's technology and IT, and those are growing fields, but education is education. You have to learn something so that you can be equipped to step into society and contribute. And not enough men are clearly doing that. And women are passing us men up, and we gotta do better. We gotta do better. And I know that's hard because mentally, I think a lot of us are exhausted and strained, but like, there are opportunities out there. I believe that. I really do. And we gotta figure it out for ourselves,
Yes, that's a good point. And this is a good question to end the podcast with Bobby. And I appreciate everyone that coming through and checking us out. Because it's a really important conversation. And I really appreciate you guys from hanging out with us for the hour.
Yeah.
But Bobby says, what's your definition of being a man?
You go first, bro.
Oh, you son of a... Let's see, what being a man. Well, yeah, I guess it's gonna come a little traditional, but I guess the ability to, it's gonna be really traditional. The ability to protect and provide for your community, and it could be your family, obviously, your friends, but being there in terms of providing and providing not necessarily financially, but the ability to be there emotionally and what I consider toxic is when you use, because I'll say right now men are stronger than women physically. It's science. It's not it's not controversial, but
it is science. Yes. Yeah.
When a toxic masculinity to me is when a man uses their strength to hurt people who are physically weaker than them. So when a man hits a woman, hits kids, a man abandons their kids, that to me is toxic. That's to me is like, you need to take care, you need to fix this problem. You're damaging the community instead of building your community, because that's where men physically build stuff. So mine is more traditional in that sense of provider or protector. But I think because physically, being stronger, I think you have responsibility. And when you're out in the corner doing nothing. Other you, I mean, I get up every, I'm out, I get up at 6:45. I'm outside. This guy's on his block drinking 7 o'clock in the morning.
Mm. That's sad.
That's
It's
sad.
sad. It's sad.
They're drinking beer. They're not providing, not earning anything. They're not contributing anything to society. I think
Very
those,
selfish.
and a
Very
lot
selfish.
of it, yeah, exactly. I think that's the level of, and that's not even talking about toxic masculinity of a CEO. I'm just talking about the dudes on the block that spend 6 hours a day just on the block doing nothing. So
It's selfish.
that's just my kind of definition. Just more of that protector provider aspect of it.
Yeah, no, that's really good, man. I think for me, like it's ever changing because I'm learning and I'm changing. Every year different things happen, different responsibilities, different people need certain things for me in my life. For me, my definition of a man is like, what am I going to like? I think about a lot as I've become a little bit older, and I have a 15-month-old now. Like, what's my legacy? What am I leaving behind? What are people going to say about me? What are my kids, my family, my friends, my mom, my dad? Like, if something happened, like, what am I leaving my children with, my friends with, my girl with, right?
Okay.
The people that I've impacted every day, how do they feel? Did I make other people's life better? Or was I negative? Was I toxic, like Hannibal's saying, And I want to try to be a more positive influence in different people's lives than a negative one, where they could feel like I helped them and impacted them in some way. That is a man to me. It's also when shit hits the fan, people know that are close to me that I got them. Like
Exactly.
my girl right now knows if something happened to her family and they live so far away or whatever, she knows that we could go and take care of them. My girl knows that if her sister needed a place to stay, we got a room downstairs. No questions asked.
Right.
My daughter knows if I come home and she's not feeling well, I got her. My friends and family know, if they need me for something, I got them 100%. To me, that's what a man does. If that means I sacrifice my sleep, I sacrifice my sleep. If that means I don't get to eat what I want to eat because my kid needs to eat, then my kid needs to eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a man, that's what I'm willing to lay down, like, and sacrifice a little bit and not be as selfish. That's what a man is.
And the props to all the dads out there who, sometimes they had to work those, 12-hour shifts and come home exhausted. They had a responsibility, right? They did that. I don't think they wanted to, right? But they had to do it. And then sometimes, when you talk to some fathers, that could be a little bit ornery, coming with the attitude. And then sometimes you think like, man, what's wrong with you? But then you kind of figure out they probably had a job they hated because they needed to make the money to take care of you. But you didn't think about that until you were in the situation like that. This job sucks, but I got a kid at home, so I'll stick around.
But I think it is tough, like to have that and come home and like you don't want to bring your negative experiences with you home to your kids. Like when I come home, like I have a very easy job, for y'all don't know. My job's real easy. But I'm out 6, 7 hours. Like, my job's easy. I did all the hard work when I was younger. But when I come home, I know my girls want to see me. So even if I've had a bad day, my respect and responsibility to them is I ain't going to show that to them right off the jump. I'm going to let them know I love to see them, hugs and kisses. How was your day? Talk to me about your day. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to be not as selfish. And that goes for men and women. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to be understanding. I got to know my 15-month-old wants to run up to me and give me a hug and wants me to play with her for 20 minutes. I need to do that. Regardless of what kind of day I had. You know what I'm saying? That's what a father and a man should do,
Nova and Bobby said it very well. Sacrifice, responsibility. And these are aspects that obviously women do. I mean, a lot of single moms out there who had to do all of that and plus some to make it. So, but I think what you said earlier kind of makes sense, and that we kind of have to step it up a little bit more. The stacks, cards may not be stacked in your favor, but you still have to put a honest effort in. Sometimes I think we quit too quickly, and that's what any type of thing we get to some roadblocks and say this ain't cut out for me, or this ain't just not working out. I don't want to pursue this. I want to, video games is easier for me, and dealing with the being too into sports And I love sports, but I feel like a lot of us get so into it.
Yeah, man.
That we're living through the victories and the losses of people who are
Man.
not you. You know what I mean?
You ain't lying. You know what's funny? I actually thought about this today because my fantasy team's not doing very great in football,
Yeah.
and like I
Or your
found
real team
myself.
either.
Listen, bro. I love it. Hey, it's gonna come back around to you. Don't worry.
Probably, yeah.
I caught myself today thinking, am I spending too much time like thinking and worrying about like my fantasy team? And I almost had a moment like, should I just get out of this league like next year? Because like I spend too
just competitive,
much
though, and that's
time,
part of that.
but I'm super competitive.
Yeah,
So
just
you're
more your
right.
competitive
Yeah,
nature.
yeah.
But yeah, you probably. I mean, as long as you listen, you got. I think you got a good balance. But
I try.
I think that's
It's
where we
hard.
are. If you too much video games, we all know if you're playing too much video games. You know how. Like, wow, did I do?
Well, I don't do
anything
that's
productive?
on you, bro. You the video game guy. That's
Oh
not
yeah,
me.
yeah.
That's
Listen,
you.
you know when it's too many video games when you got nothing done. When you got nothing done, then you got like, okay, tomorrow
Yeah.
no games. Double down on other responsibilities. So we have to be more accountable for our actions. So, but other than that, man, really great episode. I think we need to do a
appreciate
little
y'all.
more of these. We'll see. What we doing? We doing Monday or we doing what we doing?
Let's just think about that right now. So what do we have going on this week? I think we've done the last 2 Mondays, right?
I think we got a Monday or a Sunday or something.
And we've done we've been on the Wednesdays. We're trying to do a weekend night with you guys for like a Saturday or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything going on Saturday. What do you got going on Saturday? You got anything on Saturday?
I don't know. Hopefully got something going on. Damn,
I'm just you asked me. I mean, I got shit going on, but like I can make time. I mean, Hannibal's the VIP.
Wait, hold on a second. I did call you the other day. I was like, hey man, let's do it. He was like, yo man, go fuck yourself. I'm not. I'm not
actually, that's exactly what I said. Go fuck yourself. I got time for you, man.
We'll do Saturday. We'll do Saturday.
Well, yeah, we could. Yeah.
We'll confirm. But yeah, we're definitely gonna do a second show. I enjoy doing these. Obviously, Pedro does as well. We got some stuff going on. I'm surprised Draymond didn't get suspended. We'll talk about that because I'm sure the NBA season is coming through, so that's gonna be really fantastic.
Man. It's coming. I'm excited. I'm actually getting some tickets for my nephew and my brother-in-law to see Memphis versus LA in February. So
that's be nice. That's gonna be really nice. Hopefully, no one gets no load management. Everyone
I hope. I want to see LeBron and AD and Morant. Like I want to see the full gamut. I'm paying tickets. I'm paying the money, so I hope they play.
They should like refund 20% of the ticket if LeBron don't show up. Like they should be having these stipulations. Like this is nonsense. I'm paying full price and LeBron's on the bench.
Yeah.
Or he start. I don't know. Like I don't know. We'll guess we'll talk about it as well. But we're gonna end it with Nova saying if the Commanders lose to the Bears, someone needs to get fired. So
are the Bears playing? Oh, listen.
That's a win. That's a win, Pedro.
Listen, the Commanders are in shambles right now.
Yeah,
they're not doing so hot.
The coach literally said, "What's the problem?" Somebody asked him, "What's the problem with the team?" Quarterback.
Which was a really bad response because actually, analytically, if you look at Carson Wentz, he's like top 5 in passer rating and various things. He's just Carson Wentz. So he makes a bad mistake in a critical point of the game.
Yeah, there's something about him. I don't like him. Yeah,
I just don't like how he looks. Yeah, I don't like it. We'll see. But
we'll see. Thank you guys for coming through, hanging out with us a little late tonight. Thank you very much. Like, share, subscribe, all those good things. And we'll see you guys in a few days. Peace.